Outcomes-based research studies how various processes unfolding in various ways in various contexts with various participants influences various outcomes. One example is baseball's sabermetrics, in which data about different variables are calculated as a measure associated with a player. Runs created. Healthcare systems use outcomes-based research to answer questions about complex, multifaceted interests. We provide a hypothetical example analogous to sabermetrics. Our fictitious measure, best intervention to implement, integrates data on real variables of consideration. By their nature, outcomes-based research projects deal with very large sets of heterogeneous data. The more comprehensive the project, the larger the data set and the greater its heterogeneity. One vastly comprehensive outcomes-based research endeavor is the Human Behavior Change Project. It will use machine language and AI to analyze behavior change intervention literature, synthesize research data, and make predictions about new interventions. As benefits other outcomes-based research projects, the HBCP employs an ontology which it is currently developing. This will provide organizing structure in its behavior change intervention knowledge system. Studies on different aspects of metacognition have generated hypotheses about pathological mechanisms in addictive behaviors, Alzheimer's disease, anxiety and depression, obsessive-compulsive disorder, schizophrenia, and psychosis. For disorders in which research has discovered a link between patients' symptoms and metacognitive processes, it is reasonable to conclude potential efficacy for treatments that target these processes. Since there has not been only one kind of metacognitive process discovered in association with these disorders, metacognitive interventions have been developed which focus on different, although sometimes overlapping, metacognitive processes. In this table, we list 3 metacognitive interventions that have been used for psychosis. In addition, we include the metacognitive framework from which each is derived, as well as how metacognition is characterized in each of the interventions. Moritz and Lysacker, 2018, describe these interventions as follows. Quote, "The focus of metacognitive therapy is on metacognitive knowledge about cognition in general. Example, dysfunctional explicit metacognitive beliefs are challenged and replaced. The focus of metacognitive training is on metacognitive experience. Example, disorder-specific cognitive biases that are not often conscious to the patient are made explicit and challenged. The focus of merit is mainly on metacognitive knowledge about oneself and others." End quote, page 22. The definition of metacognition as thinking about thinking is commonly alluded to in the literature. But the literature also includes competing definitions and frameworks of metacognition, as well as requests for consensus on the term's meaning. Metacognition will be the first word we propose for an ontology of metacognition. There are a few existing ontologies and classification systems that contain the word metacognition. We will use these as a potential starting point. We have noted issues with their definitions, however, and describe these issues in the article this presentation previews. An ontology of metacognition will be useful for outcomes-based metacognition research. It will also be useful in improving efforts of translating metacognition research to best practices when working with patients. In creating such a proposed realist ontology, we would follow principles of best practice that underlie the basic formal ontology, an ISO standard. These best practices are those of the open biological and biomedical ontologies boundary. Following such principles is the reason why ontologies such as the gene ontology have had such long-lasting success. In the paper of which this presentation is a preview, we explore avenues of future research, such as the connections between an ontology of metacognition and ontologies like the mental functioning ontology and the behavior change intervention ontology, currently being developed as part of the Human Behavior Change Project. Thank you to Dr. Barry Smith, Austin Liebers, Gloria Sanso, and Yusheng Shah for feedback on the paper that this presentation previewed. For your feedback on previous presentations of that paper, thank you to the participants of the Fall 2020 Philosophy on Rails Graduate Seminar, instructed by Dr. Barry Smith at University of Buffalo. We have no conflicts of interest to disclose.